Was it the greatest MCU movie yet or the worst? Wow, I love this. I love this. I love this. Okay, I like this. But there's so much material that they can draw from. What is the deal with this guy? Welcome to Uncanny Chats, episode 1, where I'm going to just genuinely talk about things going on in the fandoms and a little about myself and the channel and just have a nice discussion. There's a lot to talk about, a lot is going on right now, so my outline of what to discuss kind of writes itself. The Marvels just came out this past weekend, so of course I'm going to talk briefly about that. Loki Season 2 had its season finale this past Thursday, so that'll be a topic of discussion. And then, surprising me, Inside Out 2 had a teaser drop in the past few days, so I want to talk about some questions I have going into Inside Out 2. And then I'll have a brief Q&A session at the end. So without further ado, let's jump in. Before I go too much into these topics, though, there's one topic I would like to address before I continue. So if you're new, this may not mean much to you, and hurrah, channel growth. But for those who have been here a while or have looked back on past videos, this channel was originally built to be a discussion between myself and my brother JADe, for us to talk about the fandom, about things that we love to theorize on. This is something that we do in life anyway. For years, we have just been creating theories on movies and TV shows around Pixar and Disney and Marvel and all these different categories. So we realized we're doing all the work of trying to find these theories and sharing it with each other. Let's share it with the world. So we created the Uncanny J-Men for us to discuss this with each other on the channel. Now, about a year ago now, some things started changing in JADe's life, some very exciting, great things. He had another child, he moved houses to a really nice house in a really nice area, he had expanding responsibilities at work, and his plate filled up fast. So it was decided that he would take a few months off from the channel and focus on some of these exciting things that are happening in his life. Well, a few months ago, he was finally ready to give it a try again, but he realized he just has so much on his plate still that it just doesn't make sense to try and push in these theory videos as well. He wants to make sure they're high quality, and he just didn't feel like he could put the time in at this time in order to give what he wanted. So it was decided that he would step away from the channel indefinitely. Maybe someday he'll be able to come back. Maybe I'll be able to convince him to come on as a guest star for some Uncanny Chats in the future. I don't know. But for the foreseeable future, it's going to be all me on this channel. So I hope you like my theories, because that's what we have coming down the pipeline. JADe will always be a big part of this channel. He just won't be an active part of it for a while going forward. So if you were wondering, that is the story there. Okay, so on to the actual topics for this video. So the first thing I want to discuss is the Marvels. So quick spoiler warning here. As I discuss the Marvels, I'm going to talk about some things that were in the movie. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, feel free to skip ahead and skip over this section completely, because I'm going to talk about some things in the movie and there will definitely be spoilers. So going into this movie, I was curious how it was going to go. You see, I had made a video about 6 months ago when they first started making the trailers for the Marvels, and my video was discussing the idea that I feel like the Marvels can either be one of the greatest Marvel movies yet or one of the worst. And I looked back at that video to remind myself of what I was saying and what I was basing it on. And once I got past cringing at my own self, as you always do when you watch videos of yourself, I was reminded that I was making that video with the idea of this movie will really come down to the growth of the characters. The three main characters, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Spectrum, I guess. She didn't really want to embrace a character name. But Captain Rambeau, the three of them are coming from very unique areas. Kamala Khan is coming from the area where she just developed these powers and she just used them for this crazy adventure, but kind of a smaller adventure compared to the other Marvel properties. She's still new to her powers. And so growing into the role of a hero, coming from being a super fan to being a hero itself, is going to take a lot of growth. Captain Rambeau, coming from also just developing her powers literally in the last episode of a TV show and then not being seen since then. This is brand new to her as well. So once again, coming into the role of being a superhero for the first time. Now, she was an agent of of Sword, and so she had some some connections in this greater superhero universe, but having powers herself is brand new. So how will she grow into that? And then probably the most important, Captain Marvel herself. Now, she doesn't have experience being a leader, despite being Captain Marvel, having the label of Captain. She doesn't really lead people from what we've seen thus far, and being a team player has kind of been shown to be a bit of a rough spot for her. So how will she grow into the role of a leader of a team? And can she expand from there? And I said in that video that my biggest hope is that the movie will end with Captain Marvel coming to the realization that she's ready to lead a team and going off to create a new group of Avengers for her to lead. More on that in a moment. So the question comes up of, how did I feel about this movie? Was it the greatest MCU movie yet or the worst? No, it was neither. Basically, the way I'm looking at these, I want to have some scale that I can rate the movies. The thing is, I enjoy almost every Marvel movie that comes out. It's very difficult for me to not enjoy one. Quantumania, I see a lot of weaknesses in that movie, a lot of things that they really should have done better. But I still enjoyed that movie. I still went to the theater and came out thinking, yeah, that was fun. So I wanted to come up with a baseline for how would I rate these. So basically, my scale is a 4-point scale. A 4 means I am going to see this movie again in the theaters. I cannot wait. A 3 is I am going to see this movie again, but I might wait till it's out of theaters. I mean, if somebody else wants to go, I'll go with them, but I'll probably wait till it's out of theaters. But then I'm definitely going to see it again. 2 is I'll probably wait until I'm wanting to review for some theory. I'm not in a rush to see this again. I'll probably see it again down the line just because I see most of the movies multiple times, but it's not a high priority. And a 1 is I'm not going to see this again. An example of that would be Thor: Love and Thunder. I was not a big fan of that one. I had bought 2 tickets to it ahead of time, went to see it the first time, and then was like, all right, I have this ticket. I should go again. I think I'd rather just have my time back. And so I didn't go to see it the second time. I did eventually see it again just to review and make sure that I wasn't judging it harshly. But basically, that's my criteria. Again, 4, again in theaters. 3, again after theaters. 2, probably some point down the line. 1, I'd rather just have my time back. This movie, to me, is a 3. I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I think the character of Kamala Khan is awesome, and it's a lot of fun. And one fear I had going into this movie was that she would be too fangirly, and it would ruin the character that we learned about in Miss Marvel. That didn't happen. She was giddy and fangirly, but I loved how she was able to put that aside to be a hero when she needed to be. I loved how she didn't blindly follow her idol, Captain Marvel. There was times when Captain Marvel gave her a direct command to do something and she ignored it because she wanted to be a hero. She knew people needed her. She needed to make the right call. And she was willing to make the call, even if it meant going against Captain Marvel. So she was fantastic. I think Captain Marvel herself also did well. She looked a little awkward being a part of a team, but she also kind of embraced it, which was a surprise to me. And she built upon that. She tried not to be harsh with Kamala when Kamala made her own decisions. She looked like she wasn't sure how to lead and be a role model, but she tried, and I enjoyed that. And Spectrum there, with her role, it seemed like she kind of had her powers much more fleshed out than when we saw her last. And her trying to learn how to fly was kind of neat because it was, okay, theoretically we know we can do this, but I haven't learned yet. So we were able to watch her powers develop throughout the movie a little more than the others, mainly in the area of trying to learn how to fly. But it was kind of nice to be able to see that development too. So I do feel like the movie was well done and definitely one of the better recent Marvel properties. And I definitely want to see it again. But it gets a 3 because there weren't things in it that were like, wow, this blew my mind. It was an awesome movie and I love to see it, but it didn't blow my mind. So basically a 4 would be like Thor Ragnarok, which I thought was just blew the other Thor movies out of the water. Endgame and Infinity War, like the Avengers movies, most of the Avengers movies are in that 4 categories. Like I got to see these multiple times. Captain America Civil War and Captain America Winter Soldier were both ones that I was like, I really loved this. I really love Captain America. So anyway, so to me, this movie is definitely worth seeing in theaters, probably once. If you want to see it multiple times, go ahead. But I think it's worth seeing in theaters. I know there's a lot out there of people who feel like it's the cool thing right now to bash Marvel. And the recent movies have not been up to the standards that we have known and grown to love from the first few phases. I think this movie does. I think this is up to the quality of the previous few phases. It doesn't elevate it to a new level, but it is a great movie. Glad I saw it and look forward to seeing it again. And I will say, I did like the way it went towards the end. So spoilers for something in the end here. I wanted to see Captain Marvel realize she was ready to lead a team and to go off finding new heroes to create a new Avengers. Well, Captain Marvel didn't fill that role. She felt ready to be more of a mentor to Kamala Khan, but it was Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, that decided it's time to start a new team. And she started going out to play that Nick Fury role from the first phase of Marvel to find new heroes. And I thought that was awesome. And I hope that they continue with that, because she knocked it out of the park trying to be that role, trying to be the person bringing them all together. But instead of Nick Fury being the mysterious, cool guy, she's the fangirl excited to bring this team together. And I just excited for where that's going to go. So overall, loved the movie. I would recommend it. So topic 2, on to Loki Season 2 and its grand finale, which was kind of mind-blowing the way they went about it. So once again, spoilers. If you have not seen the finale for Loki Season 2 yet and you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead to the next section. Okay, so everyone who's still here wants to hear about Loki Season finale. So as I'm watching it, I went from, wow, I love this. I love this. I love this. Okay, I like this. And really what it came down to, like, Loki, I love the show Loki. I love time travel, and the character Loki is so much fun. So watching this whole journey with the TVA through Season 1 and Season 2 has been a blast. The thing about the end, though, is I didn't fully get it. So this is probably a me thing. I probably need to watch it again and review it and maybe find someone else to explain it to me. But basically, for me, it felt like they were building up this impossible decision that Loki has to make. Whether he kills Sylvie and continues the TVA or lets chaos reign. And there seems to be no other alternative. And he's trying to find an alternative and can't. And he's stuck with these two decisions. And I love that buildup, because you're left wondering, how is he going to get out of this? He doesn't have a way to get to not lose. And as we know, Lokis are destined to lose. So how does he not lose in this situation? And he found a way to not lose. But I don't fully grasp how that, it felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit. So the radiation was too extreme. Nobody could walk out there. So how does he beat that? He walks out there without a suit. Now, he's a god. He's an Asgardian god, so he's clearly more durable. And he's got this new time power, so that could play a role as well. But it was just a little weird that they kept throwing Victor Timely out there if Loki could just walk out there fine. And so how do they beat the intense radiation? Is he just goes out there and beats the intense radiation. Okay, the timelines are chaos. They're all over the place, and they're dying. How does he stop the timelines from dying? He grabs hold of them and holds on to them and puts his Loki power into them. I guess it's his new time power feeding into them. And he just kind of wakes them up. And now the timelines can continue because Loki's standing there holding them. Well, that's neat, but where did that power come from? Since when can you hold a timeline? Like I always saw the timelines as like a band of light and energy and just the whole existence is there. It's not something you can physically hold, not something you can physically touch, just something that's out there that exists. That as you got closer to it, it would get bigger, not just be a tiny little wound string that you can grab onto. So it felt really weird to me when he was able to grab onto it. And then he could pump his energy into these timelines to wake them up, to make them live again. Since when does he have that power? So to me, it was really cool the way they did this. And it was kind of heart-wrenching to see the fate of Loki in this way. And it felt like this is the end for him, at least for this Loki. Now, maybe there'll be a season 3, but so far it doesn't sound like there's a plan for a season 3. I thought it was a very interesting show, but it didn't deliver for me the way I was hoping. With all the questions of how is he going to get out of this, and then it felt like he got out of this by having a whole bunch of abilities and be able to do a whole bunch of things that we really weren't set up for before, and I'm just not as big a fan of that sort of thing. That said, I love the show of Loki, and if I would love for them to go into a season 3. And I still loved most of this show. OB is fantastic. Ouroboros, the actor who played Ouroboros, knocked it out of the park. I loved the show before. He immediately became my favorite character. I loved watching him through the show. So I really hope he shows up again. But that is my feelings on Loki in the season finale. All right, topic 3, I want to talk about Inside Out 2 teaser that came out recently. If you haven't seen it, feel free to pause this video and go watch it. It's on YouTube, and it's fairly brief. Once you finish watching that, come on back, and welcome back. So if you've now seen it, we see the emotions are there in Riley's mind, and suddenly this construction crew comes in and kind of demolishes to rebuild this space. And then we have a new emotion show up. And it says, sorry, we were hoping to make a good impression. And the question of we. I find this very interesting, and I'm excited for this because I feel like the direction they go, it's going to be fun. I don't see a way that they could do this emotion-based thing again. There's so much material there. So much that goes on in a child's mind, especially at that age, at the young teens time frame. There's so much changing and happening that there's so much material that they can draw from. So I'm really excited to see the direction they go with this. I'm really curious though about how they're going to pull this off. So it sounds like they're bringing new emotions in to join the original 5. But how is that possible? In the first Inside Out movie, we see into the minds of others, of adults, of animals. And we see that they all seem to have the same 5 emotions, the same group of emotions. So how are more emotions showing up into Riley's mind, but those emotions aren't in the parents' minds? It feels like Riley's hitting a point where just more emotions are coming in. It's going to be crowded. There's going to be a whole bunch there. And she has to figure out a way to deal with that as she moves into adulthood. But the adults don't have that. So I'm really curious where they're going to go with this. And I have some theories, but I'm going to create those into a video at some point down the line. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm really curious the direction they're going to go with these new emotions coming in. And either way, I'm excited for it whenever it manages to come out. Definitely going to see that one. So those are the 3 main topics I wanted to discuss today. Now, I'd like to end these episodes typically with a Q&A session where I take questions that have shown up in the comments before on the channel, or just questions about would you rather type of topics. But to this point, this is episode 1, so I don't have a list of questions to draw from. So just to have something to set the stage for this Q&A type session at the end, I went online and I found a question, just a Marvel related question, and I just pulled it and I was like, okay, that's the one I'm going to answer. So the one question for the Q&A today, the question was, if you could be a new character in the MCU, what character would it be? Okay, so first I wasn't really sure, is this a character that doesn't exist, but it says a new character? So I'm guessing this is a character from elsewhere that isn't currently in the MCU that we would add in. Now, I love the X-Men. The X-Men is my passion in Marvel. It's above everything else. X-Men hasn't really been part of Marvel yet. So I would love to be an X-Men character. And honestly, Xavier is awesome. So I would love to play the role of Xavier. Or actually, Cyclops would be a lot of fun too. Xavier or Cyclops. I feel like I would really enjoy playing one of those characters. That said, if I really think about the MCU and what I love seeing in the MCU, I think I would actually want to be a background character. I would want to be some random guy that shows up in the back of scenes that you don't notice right away, but then when you do, you can't not notice it. So the Battle of New York. You're looking at the Battle of New York, and the aliens fly in, and people are scattering, and there are a bunch of people sitting in an outdoor diner. The aliens fly through, and everyone goes running around. Except for one guy. My character would be the one sitting at the table, maybe reading a newspaper or something, maybe eating his food. I don't know. The aliens attack, he looks up, shrugs, goes back to eating. A background character, then it's why isn't that guy screaming and running? There are aliens attacking. What's up with that guy? But then you're like, okay, just a weird extra choice, a choice for the background, that's fine. But then he shows up in some other movie, on Asgard in Thor Ragnarok, when Loki, Odin is having that play go on, and maybe the crowd of Asgardians are all applauding, and then you just have one guy with his arms crossed just shaking his head. And it's like, wait a minute, is that the same guy from New York? What's he doing here? And then he could show up in some random, just this character that shows up in a lot of different locations and is very clearly the same guy, and he's just not reacting the same way you'd expect from everyone else. And so you're just kind of wondering, like, what is the deal with this guy? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I love those things. There's like this background kind of, I would want to be Easter Egg Man, I guess. I don't think there's a hero named Easter Egg Man. That's what I want to be. I want to be Easter Egg Man. The one who shows up in just every Marvel movie, just in a random spot in the background. And it's just like, he's here too. Who is this guy? The theories that could come out of that would just be a joy to behold. So honestly, that's what I would want to be. I'd want to be the random background character. Maybe he'd be the tourist or something. He's like he comes out to be like a time traveler who just goes around scene to scene and just watches the MCU from within it. I don't know. But honestly, what it comes down to, that's the role I would want in the MCU. So anyway, thank you for listening. That is my video for today. Let me know if you have a different answer and you want to let me know what you would be in the MCU. I would love to hear everyone else's opinions. If you have other questions that I can include in a future Q&A, definitely put those in the comments down below. See the Marvels in theaters. Watch Loki. It's awesome. And I look forward to Inside Out 2 whenever that comes around. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.